Good evening, region and Northwest Indiana. Welcome back to We the People with your host, John Allen. And as a refresher, I want to remind you guys, make sure you tune in every Thursday at 6 p.m. to We the People. You can get it streaming in social media such as Facebook. You can also hear it live at AM 1370 WLTH, Gary, Indiana. Our call-in line tonight is 219-885-1371. And the views expressed by the host and callers of this show are not necessarily the view of WLTH management, owners, advertisers, and sponsors. Earlier, we were having to talk a little bit about the economy, and I was discussing how We the People is going to share some economic indicators. And I shared the fact that I feel that in our county or in our region, we should keep track of how many properties on the tax sale. And over time, we want them to go down. We want that to reduce. Also, as an economic indicator, or as part of our recovery plan, we should be aware of how much or how often or how frequent, particularly in some towns, but all the towns, all of Northwest Indiana, we're having demolition of underutilized property, the pulling of new construction permits. We should track that as well. How many new construction permits are pulled quarterly, where they're pulled, so we get an idea of our growth in our construction activity. In addition, how many building permits are being pulled? I know they're being undercounted because we do have some people working without permits. But we should encourage people to always get your permits. That help with our fees. So no matter what town you're working in, go get you a permit. And very, very important, I asked you guys, this is an ask, because I say I'm going to do an ask some show. This is what I'm asking you guys to do, because we're supposed to come back on and do a Freedom of Information Act. I asked everyone within the sound of my voice who see this video later or hear this audio later and now, see if you can contact anybody in leadership, whether it's our chamber, whether it's your precinct captain, your city council member, because the city should be able to get whatever city you live in or county you live in, this information should be able to be available. And we want to know, and we know NIPSCO is not necessarily a governmental agency, but we want to know the number of new activations quarterly in our county and in our towns. The number of that gives you an idea of the number of people that's moving in. We want to know the number of transfers of NIPSCO services from one address to another. The frequency of that will let you know how transient some of our people are and how they're moving. So let's give an example. Let's say NIPSCO was to tell me that we have 100 transfers of utilities from one address to another one in the same name, either out or within Munster in 1 year. And let's say I found out that number for Gary, Indiana was 5,000, 4,000, or let's say at Lake Station it was 3,000. I would wonder, how did they have 3,000 people move within the same city limits in 1 year, right, to another address? Because they would probably cut the NIPSCO on in the same name. It'd be moving. And no, the data wouldn't give us 100% accurate picture, but it'd give us an idea of some of the other problems we need to solve. So let's say, for example, I found out that the 46408 area code, 46408 zip code, not area code, that's phone, 46408 zip code is in 3 consecutive years has the most new turn-ons. That means people is moving in that zip code. There's new activations in that zip code, right? Okay, so maybe I need to consider that, and I compare that with the census or whatever, and maybe pay attention to the park or make that park in that zip code a priority because I want to retain that population, right? Maybe I direct the businesses there. But let's say I got a zip code, say it's 46403, and I'm just using the zip code at random, not that there's any truth to this. Say that zip code has the least amount of turn-ons, right? But it has the second most properties on the tax sale list. And let's say it's second in the number of people moving out, terminating their services. And let's say in addition to that, let's say that's the zip code that has the most late bills, or the bills that are on and stay on. Say they have a high concentration of people paying late. We don't need to know who they are, just the numbers. And if you had a zip code that had a high concentration of people paying their bills late, that lets you know that may be a zip code where we have a high concentration of people that can use the best help. I mean, non-for-profits can really use this information. Because if I came to town, like the lady Denise called in, and I had a bunch of money and I wanted to do something, it's no sense in me not targeting it the best way I can to the best audience I can to help. So let's say I wanted to subsidize families and help with NIPSCO bills, and that's cool, and they have programs for that. But I may focus the advertisement of the program in the area that has the most late payments, the zip code that has the most late payments. And then let's say I have an area that seems to be the most stable for its NIPSCO usage. If I'm having some type of charitable event, I'm gonna saturate that location with solicitation for help and donation of volunteers, because our economic indicators indicate that they're doing a little bit better than the other zip code. So we might want to do something like that. We also might want to know the zip codes that have the most arrests, the least arrests, the most traffic citations, the least traffic citations. And that information can be used to come up with ideas on how to approach other problems. It may also be able to be used to create ideas to do more of what we're already doing. So every new idea is not a criticism or attack on what is. Sometimes a little investigation, a little footwork may reveal that you're going in the right direction and maybe you need to speed up the pace. And some directions we're going in, I think we need to run, but maybe we should speed up the pace in some of the directions. With that being said, I'm gonna get off my soapbox about the tribalism, and I'm gonna give you one more economic highlight here, right? I don't know how many of you guys know anything about inflation and inflation rates. And economic theorists or economic scholars, they have several theories about inflation. Some make it real simple. They say, hey, look, if you put too much currency in the economy, the currency become worthless, right? It can buy less because too much currency in the economy. So some people criticize the Biden administration about all the money they gave out, they put in circulation, and they believe that money, because it's not bagged by production, because it's just printed and given out. So that money may contribute to inflation. Some people believe that the scarcity in goods or services, so like maybe because of COVID, it wasn't people out doing as much production, so we're behind in production. The example is, I just installed a 200 amp electrical service at a residence. And when I was going to do a 100 amp service, they didn't have the 100 amp meter can plugs. You guys have, the NIPSCO meter that goes out on your house, it goes into a meter can. And that meter can is purchased by the homeowner or the developer. NIPSCO don't provide that can, they just put the meter in it. So the meter cans historically, they used to be about $30, $38. Then it went up to 40. And I had to go buy meter cans for $90. And I paid $60 and thought it was a deal. Then when Menards finally got their cans in, and they were at the regular price of $38, I bought 6 cans even though I needed 1. And so the scarcity in these cans, and it wasn't just because the cans wasn't manufactured, it was another third-party problem. It was some shortage with the shipping. We had a lot of shipping containers sitting on the West Coast that wasn't shipped on time. So it made a lot of things be behind, and it created a scarcity, which created inflation for a particular item. And then they have other many theories about inflation, but the Fed is notorious for raising the interest rate so we can offset inflation. Some argue that the theory is that everyone wouldn't qualify for easy money to borrow. People will borrow less. So I guess the purchasing will go down or debt will go down, and it can help offset inflation. I may have a professional come in and talk about it, because one thing I don't believe in is hurling opinions to motivate people to be scared. And sometimes I hear that a lot in our public, where we're against something and we may be rightly to be against it, but we scare people into adopting our view. But I'm gonna share this number with you. In the last 12 months, we've experienced 8.3% inflation. So I'm gonna read this direct. The annual inflation rate for the United States is 8.3% for the 12 months ended in August 22. So from August 21 to 22, inflation has went up 8.3%. After rising 8.5% previously, according to the U.S. Labor Department data published September 13th. The next inflation update is scheduled to release in October 13th, right, about 8:30 in the morning. So some of us, we are devoid of that. We think, man, that don't make no difference. I don't make enough money anyway. It's very relevant, because I can simply say to you, you need to do something to make more money. But your ability to make more and how much more you can make, no matter what it is you're going to go do, is directly related to the inflation. It does no good if the inflation rate is up 8.3% and I had $100,000 before it was that, I need $108,000 to have sustain the same position that I had prior to 8.3%, just to make that simple, right? So I'm saying that to say this. If I get a raise, or if I figure out how to make more money, and the increase in my income is not on pace with inflation, I can't save for when I can't make the money, because a day will come where you're not going to be in a position to earn that money. Unless, of course, you're fortunate enough to be shown or presented with the opportunity where you can take some of your money and cause that money to own or buy things that make money. And we may have a show about that, because that can be done. And I'm going to drive home that I'm not just talking. Majority of the projects that those of you are out there aware that you see me do, they are self-funded, but they are not self-funded. Well, John, what do you mean? I do not go to a lending institution and get formal loans to do a lot of the projects I do. I normally go to a private person and I demonstrate to them my competency, and my competency gives me authority, and my authority makes them comfortable enough to know that I'm going to be able to do what I do and return and bring them a return. So we're going to talk about that on the show too, and how you can do that too. You can put, you technically can put yourself up as collateral and get you some projects done and get you some stuff done to make you some money in addition to your job. With that being said, I enjoyed you guys tonight on We the People. If I talk too much, that's a reflection of me, not you. And if I said something that was good and beneficial, that's from our Creator, and it's from Him and you guys, not myself. And if I said something that was an error or harmed or misled, that was from myself, because I'm only a human being, and not from you guys and the Creator. With that being said, I thank you. I enjoyed you with We the People, and I look forward to hearing from you guys next Thursday at 6 o'clock with We the People. Thank you very much. Thank you guys.
So once again, I look forward to seeing you guys.